lives. Thank you, Mr. Yang. Congressman O'Rourke, is decriminalizing opioids part of the solution? Please respond.
Yes, it is, for many of the reasons that Mr. Yang just described.
Welcome.
Also, just from some personal experiences.
You can hear the Democratic debate going on, and I would like you to listen in just a little bit. They're talking about the opiate crisis, and I want to get in on that. You know I have a history in this. These guys are not prepared to take care of this situation or atone it.
Now,
I am.
That veteran, instead of being prescribed an opioid, had been prescribed marijuana because we made that legal in America, ensured the VA could prescribe it, expunged the arrest records for those who've been arrested for possession, and made sure that he was not prescribed something to which he would become addicted. I also want to agree with Senator Cole.
And just to be clear, in order to avoid any strikes against my broadcast, I will not be setting this as a straight through the debate program. Instead, it'll be my opportunity to speak to you and to share my policy proposals, as well as share these highlights in the debate as it's going live. We will not give live pictures, however, from the debate so that they can't strike the channel for images, and we'll hope that gets us through this in one piece. The last time they took us off, which we actually aired and simulcast the entire debate with the images, and I wasn't even on it. So this time it's different. We hear it in the background. And this is your Happy Healer for President live at the same time. And I shall be delivering to you my views tonight and picking up from what we were talking about just last night. We have got an amazing lineup for you. We'll be a little bit while for this whole week sharing so much, and it'll be great stuff, and it's about moving this country forward.
And they knew what they were doing. They were marketing false advertising. They knew what they were pushing in communities and states like Ohio without any concern about the repercussions, because they were profiting and making big bucks. And yes, they should be held accountable. This is a matter of justice. And so as President of the United States, I would ensure that the United States Department of Justice understand that you want to deal with who is really a criminal. Let's end mass incarceration and end.
And this is Kamala Harris.
And let's go over after these pharmaceutical companies for what they've been doing to destroy our country in states like Ohio.
Thank you, Senator. Secretary Castro, are you in favor of sending those drug company executives to prison? Please respond.
Yes, I am. They need to be held accountable, not only financially, but also with criminal penalties. And you can draw a straight line between making sure that we hold executives accountable, whether it's these drug manufacturers or Wall Street executives that should have been held accountable a decade and a half ago.
Thank you.
Now to the issue of candidates and their health. Senator Sanders, I want to start with you. I want to start. We're moving on, Senator. I'm sorry.
I'm feeling great, but I would like to respond to that.
I want to start by saying.
And Senator Sanders is in favor of medical marijuana. I want to make sure that's clear as well.
Thank you.
Senator Sanders, this debate does mark your. This debate.
All right.
This debate, sir, does mark your return to the campaign trail. Okay, go ahead and finish your point, and then I'll ask my question, Senator.
I'm more than happy to answer your question, but I wanted to pick up on what Kamala and Corey and others have said. Let's take a deep breath. Take a look at this opioid epidemic. You have executives, CEOs of major pharmaceutical companies making tens of millions of dollars a year. And in this particular case with the opioids, they knew that they were selling a product to communities all over this country which were addicting people and killing them. And last year, the top 10 drug companies made $69 billion in profit. This is what unfettered capitalism is doing to this country. And it's not just the drug companies. Right now, the CEOs in the fossil fuel industry know full well that their product is destroying this world, and they continue to make huge profits.
Senator,
that is why we need a political revolution that says
Senator.
Enough is enough to this behavior.
Senator, we are all very glad you're feeling well, as you just said. But there is a question on a lot of people's minds, and I want to address it tonight. You're 78 years old, and you just had a heart attack. How do you reassure Democratic voters that you're up to the stress of the presidency?
Well, let me invite you all to a major rally we're having in Queens, New York. Bernie Sanders.
And we'll be putting up our rallies as well. This coming Saturday, we're going to be out canvassing in the Happy Healer for President. We are going to do what we need to do to bring more voters on the Democratic side. We are pushing Republicans to the Democratic side. We are showing that we are making a showing. We are making a showing. We are saying we have arrived. Here are our supporters. They are Democrats and Republicans. Come on board with us. Let's do something special. And about this opiate crisis, I've already talked to you about this crisis on so many occasions, and I won't stop talking about it. These guys don't have any experience with addiction. They just have that condescending nature that greed provides, says we have all the answers. Here's what we need to do. We have to throw a whole bunch of money at it. No, we don't know what it's like to have somebody themselves actually having gone through it. They wouldn't admit it if they did, because in that greed you can't admit anything. And so we are not about being perfect. What we are about is love, and that love is perfect. And we know that this is the right way forward, because the American experience has so much going on, and we are accounting for all of that.
It's required now more than any time in any of our lifetimes to have someone who has.
This is Joe Biden.
On day one. That's one of the reasons why I decided to run. Why I decided to run this time, because I know what has to be done. I've done it before. I've been there when we pulled the nation out of the worst financial recession in history. I've been there, and I've got so many pieces of legislation passed.
Yeah, it's time for new blood, Mr. Biden. We have had your kind of leadership for so long, and it has not atoned the American experience. It is what led to both parents having to work 40 to 80 hours in order to raise their families of 4. No, gone are the days in the past in the 50s where a parent could work just one and raise an entire family. The promise was for this American exceptionalism that we can live in a time when we can actually create a life where people can live their fate and dream. It's the 21st century American dream. It was promised and then taken from us.
President ever inaugurated in a first term.
So we have to atone that. We have to make that right. And so that's what we're doing in this campaign. And so these guys that come along and that their only mission in life is to just destroy what is possible that your Happy Healer can bring forth. And instead they want to bring back old ways, old stagnation. They'll let greed run the show for the next century, as I say. Don't allow them to do it.
Is by addressing head-on what millions of Americans know in their bones.
And I know you know who's talking now.
Have captured our democracy.
This is Senator
and they're making it work for
Warren.
themselves and leaving everyone else behind. And political pundits and Washington insiders and people in our own party don't want to admit that. They think that running some kind of vague campaign that nibbles around the edges of big problems in this country is a winning strategy. They are wrong. If all Democrats can promise is after Donald Trump it will be business as usual, then we will lose. Democrats win when we call out what's broken and we show how to fix it. Democrats will win when we fight for the things that touch people's lives. Things like child care and health care and housing costs. Democrats will win when we give people a reason to get in the fight.
Congresswoman Gabbard, you're 38 years old, and you would be the youngest president if elected. Should age matter when choosing a president?
I'm glad you asked, because I was going to say it's not fair to ask these three about their health and their fitness to serve as president, but not every other one of us. I am grateful to have been trained very well by the Army and do my best.
But
to
not
stay in shape.
everybody.
Here's the real question I believe
Those
we
are
should be
the older
asking is,
people. That's why they asked
fit
them.
to serve as our commander in chief.
And
This is
who's
the
fit?
most
Let me
important
tell you.
responsibility
He
the president
who
has.
knows what the
Donald Trump
major
has been doing
concerns
in
are to our
Syria
national
and
security
what we have
and
just
the
seen
many
with
crises
inviting
that
the
is
Turks
coming
to
out of
come
it
in and slaughter
and
the
what we
Kurds.
need to atone that. A. And
And
B, he or she who can get to the love that has been absent from the system of things that is running our country, that is running our people, that we have to change that because it's not. The problem is that it's not, and that right now it's greed, so we have to atone to that. So I would say the biggest qualifications to being president of the United States in the year 2020, and even right now, is a president that realizes we need unity. Unity. There is no other way. If we don't have unity moving forward, we get nothing done. It doesn't matter if you're Donald Trump or if you're Kamala Harris or if you're Boone or if you're any of these folks. If you don't have unity, you get zero done. And that is what they are talking about. They're talking about more war, more stagnation, and this insanity. No matter which side of the aisle that you are on, it is a continuation of it. And that's exactly what we're getting away from in your Happy Healer for President, Keith Landi. And so now they're taking a break. Oh, how lovely it is. And I'm just going to turn that down a bit while they're on break. And I like this opportunity to come forth and just mirror while they're talking about the issues. I'm also talking about the issues. Just a moment ago, they were talking about guns. And let me tell you, they want to take and march around. They're talking about making it mandatory buyback programs. They're talking about doing all kinds of things about taking freedoms. Now, often I tell you, we are in a freedom warfare situation where both sides are after your freedoms. Remember, it's the right who wants to take freedoms away from gays. They don't want to see gay marriage, many of them that are bigoted oftentimes. And then on the left, you've got people who are just so angry and hateful and responding into some of this that they go overboard or want to find some other ways. Let me tell you folks, they mentioned what the problem is, but they don't have the courage to say that's what we need to fix. And I'll tell you who mentioned it. It was Yang. He said, we know that what we have is a human problem here. And he was talking about the opioid crisis. That also happens to be the same problem that is causing the gun crisis. It is a human problem. It is the fact that we have such a sick spirit in our American spirit. It is causing our own people to lose faith in this dream. It's not serving to them anymore. When you see people that are on the streets, and trust me, your Happy Healer sees them all the time, and they are in despair. I seen somebody today in the line just behind me waiting to use the ATM, and I was on the phone chatting with my ex, talking about the beautiful world we live in, the possibilities of love, the possibilities of this campaign, and all the great things that we can do. And in the meantime, what ended up happening is this guy, which by the way wasn't holding up the process at all just because I was on the phone, but let's face it, I was still doing my work. I was depositing some checks, and I asked this guy, why is he so impatient? Well, he yelled from his car to my car. I said, sir, since you're in such a rush, and I should tell you that patience is a virtue, but that you're in such a rush, then what we'll do is let you go ahead of me, and that I'll just stand behind you and let you go first. And so that disarmed him. He wasn't expecting that. And instead, I ended up having a conversation with my ex about the virtues of patience and how patience is a virtuous thing and how it's gotten people out of trouble. And when they've had it, it's worked for them. And when they haven't had it, it's cost them so much, including their lives and oftentimes their money and their savings and their relationships. And that patience is a required ingredient in order to get through this life. And while I was talking to him, this guy he was working on the ATM, he sort of had to overhear all that. And instead of seeing something go out of whack and into a fight, you see those Happy Healer principles and that combination of love. I just realized, I know from starting right off the bat, I love this guy because we are in this together. We are on one world, one planet. And if we don't get things right here and show the way forward, then we lose together. And I realized that it takes a certain knowledge and principle path of truth to know that we are in this together. If you don't recognize that, you're not living in reality. So that's what I realized when I said I need the patience. And I said, golly, if you're in such a hurry and you don't have time, well then you go right on ahead. And let me tell you, my time moves very fast because I'm a happy guy. I'm such a happy person, living in the moment, doing everything that I know I won't regret because I know I'm doing the truth. The truth is a powerful thing. And that's what I do. And so people, they see that truth and they respect it. They know where you're coming from. They could feel from the honest broker of truth who you are and what you mean. They see what you're putting forward and they respect that. We need more of that kind of respect. We need it. It's a mutual respect too, by the way. We have to give that to get it. And so that's how love works.
Hey, welcome back.
And so now they're back.
Democratic presidential debate. Mark Lacey from the New York Times starts off our questioning. Mark?
Let's turn to the growing concerns over the power of big tech companies. Mr. Yang, Senator Warren is calling for companies like Facebook, Amazon, and Google to be broken up. Is she right? Does that need to happen?
As usual, Senator Warren is 100% right in diagnosing the problem.
Yes.
There are absolutely excesses in technology, and in some cases, having them divest parts of their business is the right move. But we also have to be
we have to do
that competition doesn't solve all of the problems. It's not like any of us wants to use the fourth best navigation app. That would be like cruel punishment. There's a reason why no one is using Bing today. Sorry, Microsoft, it's true. So it's not like breaking up these big tech companies will revive
truth does mean something
around the country. And as the parent of 2 young children, I'm particularly concerned about screen use and its effect on our children. Studies clearly show that we're seeing record levels of anxiety and depression coincident with smartphone adoption and social media use. Breaking up the tech companies does nothing to make our kids healthier. What we have to do is we have to home in on the specific problems we're trying to solve and use 21st century solutions for 21st century problems. Using a 20th century antitrust framework will not work. We need new solutions and a new toolkit.
Thank you. Senator Warren, is Mr. Yang wrong? Your response, please.
But I'm not willing to give up and let a handful of monopolists dominate our economy and our democracy. It's time to fight back. Think about it this way, when you talk about how it works in competition, about 8%, 9% of all retail sales happen in bricks and sticks stores, happen at Walmart. About 49% of all sales online happen in one place, that's Amazon. It collects information from every little business. And then Amazon does something else. It runs the platform, gets all the information, and then goes into competition with those little businesses. Look, you get to be the umpire in the baseball game, or you get to have a team, but you don't get to do both at the same time. We need to enforce our antitrust laws, break up these giant companies that are dominating big tech, big pharma, big oil, all of them.
Mr. Steyer, your response?
Look, I agree with Senator Warren that in fact monopolies have to be dealt with. They either have to be broken up or regulated, and that's part of it. But we have to understand that Mr. Trump is going to be running on the economy. He's going to be saying he's the person who can make it grow. I started a business from scratch, one room, no employers, and built a multi-billion-dollar international business. We're going to have to show the American people that we don't just know how to tax and have programs to break up companies, but also talk about prosperity, talk about investing in the American people, talk about harnessing the innovation and competition of the American private sector. In fact, if we want to beat Mr. Trump, I think somebody who can go toe-to-toe with him and show him to be a fraud and a failure as a business person and a fraud and a failure as a steward of the American economy is going to be necessary. He is one. His tax plan's a failure.
his trade war is a failure. I would love to take him on as a real businessman and show that, in fact, he's failed the American people and he has to go.
Thank you, Mr. Sire. Senator Booker, how do you respond? Would a President Booker break up big tech companies like Facebook and Amazon?
Anybody that does not think that we have a massive crisis in our democracy with the way these tech companies are being used,
That's
not
right.
just in terms of anti-competitive
That's
practices, but also to undermine our democracy. We have seen it in the 2016 election, practices being used that have not been corrected now. We need regulation and reform. And antitrust, I mean, Robert Bork right now is laughing in his sleep. We have a reality in this country where antitrust from pharma to farms is causing trouble. And we have to deal with this. As President of the United States, I will put people in place that enforce antitrust laws. And I want to say one last thing. I feel qualified to say this as the vegan on the stage. Going back to the fact that it's rich to me that we asked 3 people about their health. When looking at this stage, we know that the most unhealthy person running for the presidency in 2020 is Donald Trump.
Thank you, Senator. Congressman O'Rourke, you say you're not sure if it's appropriate for a president to designate which companies should be broken up. So what's the proper level of oversight here?
Yeah, we need to set very tough, very clear, transparent rules of the road, the kind of rules that we do not have today that allow these social media platforms where we, the people, have become the product to abuse that public trust and to do so at extraordinary profits. Right now, we treat them functionally as a utility, when in reality, they're more akin to a publisher. They curate the content that we see, our pictures and personal information that they share with others. We would allow no publisher to do what Facebook is doing, to publish that ad that Senator Warren has rightfully called out, that CNN has refused to air because it is untrue and tells lies about the vice president. Treat them like the publisher that they are. That's what I will do as president. And we will be unafraid to break up big businesses if we have to do that. But I don't think it is the role of a president or a candidate for the presidency to specifically call out which companies will be broken up. That's something that Donald Trump has done, in part because he sees enemies in the press and wants to diminish their power. Is not something that we should do. So tough rules of the road, protect your personal information, privacy, and data, and be fearless in the face of these tech giants.
Senator Sanders, your response?
That's right.
When we talk about a rigged economy, it's not just the grotesque level of income and wealth inequality. It is also the fact that in sector after sector, whether it is Wall Street, where you have 6 banks that have assets equivalent to half of the GDP of the United States, whether it is media, where you have 10 media companies that control about 90% of what the American people see, hear, or read.
Let me tell you something so unique about our candidacy, because we get along with both sides, the Republicans and the Democrats, in that your HappyHealer for president, he's a loving guy, and that we do that automatically. The best part of our candidacy is that we'll be able to get people on both sides of the aisle cooperating with us in the progress that we're making for America. So that means all of these guys that have great ideas, we're taking from them. They owe it to give that to America, and that my great ideas, it's only great because it's correct for America and for Americans.
Would breaking up these companies make the spread of disinformation worse?
No, I don't agree with that at all. And serving on the Senate Intelligence Committee, working with Amy Klobuchar on what we need to do to upgrade the elections infrastructure, knowing that Russia needs to be held accountable for the fact that they interfered in the election of the President of the United States, and it will attempt to do it again. That's a ridiculous argument he's making. But I do want to also say this. What we're talking about is a grave injustice when rules apply to some but not equally to all, and in particular when the rules that apply to the powerless don't apply to the powerful. And so, Senator Warren, I just want to say that I was surprised to hear that you did not agree with me that on this subject of what should be the rules around corporate responsibility for these big tech companies, when I called on Twitter to suspend Donald Trump's account, that you did not agree, and I would urge you to join me, because here we have Donald Trump, who has 65 million Twitter followers, and is using that platform as the President of the United States to openly intimidate witnesses, to threaten witnesses, to obstruct justice.
No, don't trust the prosecutor. Don't trust the prosecutor. Remember, it's the prosecutor who can prosecute somebody, regardless of whether they're innocent or guilty, in order to put that feather, that feather, that greedy one that says, oh, I'm the best, and they put that feather in that cap, they will kill you for that feather. Do not trust the prosecutor. I tell you, we all love prosecutors for the jobs that they do, but they will take the innocent down. Justice's worst nightmare is you do not take the innocent down. They will take the innocent down. Not all of them. Not all of them. But the hungriest ones, the ones that are at the very top in a system of greed. It doesn't take being honest with the truth. It only takes common sense to know this. And yet, being honest with the truth also tells you that too. Just realize, in love, we never persecute the innocent. We would rather let the guilty go before persecuting the innocent. That's the truth. That's the truth. In love. But that the guilty are so few, far and in between, because in love, that system of love is working through the human spirit. That's a power that we're not putting to work right now. But in your Happy Healer for President, we will.
Thank you, Senator Warren. Senator Harris.
That's so wonderful.
It does not represent a system of justice to say that the rules will apply differently to different people. This is a matter, you are saying, of holding big tech accountable. Yes. Holding big tech accountable because they have an outsized influence on people's perceptions about issues, and they actually influence behaviors. We all have to agree this is their power. It is immense.
That's very true. But here's the thing. We can't take away Donald Trump's Twitter account. That's not how democracy or freedom works. We have to be honest and true to the cause of freedom. Don't worry, the truth shall win. Just let that truth break through. Just let the people hear the truth. Allow the truth to stand up on its own 2 feet. Don't hold the truth and hold love down and expect that everything's going to be okay. That's what greed does. Greed only lets the monetary excuse get forward, the nefarious answer and reasons. But remember, that is not all of the reasons, and it's certainly not the truth. Not with as many people that have agendas and that are driven for those agendas in today's environment. We have to be careful with that truth, my friends, and we have to put our salvation and our future and the future of our kids first before the political expediency. We are in a self-civil war, and these folks are talking about things that are not even nearly as important because they are blind in their vision, and that their main goal is to stoke division and to continue that self-civil war, whereas we are looking for a unity and a way forward. That's why I'm not at that debate, because greed has the floor, but we're stepping up and we're stepping forward.
Just what we've been talking about here is breaking down some of this consolidation and also making sure that the enforcers have the resources to take them on because they're so overwhelmed. But the issue here is this. Start talking about this as a pro-competition issue. This used to be a Republican and Democratic issue because America, our founding fathers, actually wanted to have less consolidation. We were a place of entrepreneurship. We are seeing a startup slump in this country,
Secretary
and this
Castro,
means
would you
everything
like to
from tech on down.
Yeah, I think that we're on the right track in terms of updating how we look at monopolistic practices and setting, as Congressman O'Rourke said, rules for the road.
And remember, I am a content creator. I create content all the time. I should be able to share this debate, for example, in all of its images. Why? Because I am a presidential candidate. That should be possible for the Fair Use Act. Because the fact of the matter is, as a content creator, and because this is around the area of technology, and it's around the area of media, and it's around the area of entertainment, and it's bringing education to the people, the general public, based on information that will help them decide what is best for our country, it is a great case for the Fair Use Act. Yet, they mark against that because greed doesn't want that.
It got lost. It went
Go
to
figure.
Amazon, Google. If we say This is our property and we share in the gains. That's the best way we can balance the scales against the big tech companies.
There's a bigger
Okay, also, that when it comes to these big tech companies, especially Facebook and all of them, they're getting so greedy. And I don't want to just say especially Facebook. YouTube does it, they all do it. And this is that they're controlling their networks. They're allowed to dictate who and how we're all communicating. And you know, Senator Harris just a moment ago was talking about how we should pull Donald Trump off of Twitter. But then she was talking how also Facebook and Twitter and all these companies are dictating what we hear and see, and how that's not right, and how they're getting into the human communication and the development of human communications. I mean, what is she doing when she's trying to stifle someone else's communication? The best thing we could do is go back to the principle of love and self-determination that says let free speech win and let the truth win. That's where we all win.
Outdated and out of touch, mostly men who are telling women what to do with their bodies, then there needs to be accountability and consequence. But you know,
that's right.
You may have seen it. I question.
And I am for the status quo in this world, the way things are with greed. We have to show to the extent we care for the nurturers of life, women, and we love women, in that we have to give them the right to choice in this greedy environment. We have to do the status quo. We don't have humanity above capitalism. Human beings do not matter in this world. We see greed all over the place, people dying on the streets, and we see other people justifying it while they say that abortion is a sin. It just doesn't make sense. But in the new world, as I so affectionately call it, we'll have a much different reality. And so after we fix all that other hell and that we have happy lives, we'll leave it to nurturers of life, women, to decide for themselves how they want to handle this issue in the new world. And I feel we all owe it to ourselves to decide in the new world. We can't touch this now. This is something that we have to stick with the status quo on. So I am for the right to choice, the way things are, and that this is only used for politics so that people can further their greedy agendas. But folks, we're working and we're in it for a new world. You vote for HappyHealer, you're voting, and we're putting love on the ballot, so you're voting for love. And that is the difference between us and these other campaigns. So with Facebook, we believe that they're doing wrong by dictating the human experience through communication. We would have to make sure we atone that situation. And I have spoke on this on the site so many times, what I think is the right thing to do. I would have to speak to them what they think together they could do to atone this. We're not trying to destroy human enterprise. In the new system, we'll be super consumers. There'll be so much more. We'll be in the world of abundance and creation because that's what passionate, happy people do. But in the system as we have now that greed controls and all the depression and death and the scarcity, yes, there's many losers. So we have to just change things around is all.
On the most fundamental ideal that human beings should control their own body. And so the way, as President of the United States, I'm going to deal with this is, first of all, elevating it like we have with other national crises to a White House level position. And I will create the Office of Reproductive Freedom and Reproductive Rights in the White House, and make sure that we begin to fight back on a systematic attempt that's gone on for decades to undermine Roe v. Wade. I will fight to codify it, and I will also make sure that we fight as this country to repeal the Hyde Amendment so that we are leading the planet Earth in defending the global assault we see on women right now.
Congresswoman Gabbard, your response.
This is often one of the most difficult decisions that a woman will ever have to make, and it's unfortunate to see how in this country it has for so long been used as a divisive political weapon. I agree with Hillary Clinton on one thing, disagree with her on many others, but when she said abortion should be safe, legal, and rare, I think she's correct. We see how the consequences of laws that you're referring to can often lead to a dangerous place, as we've seen them as they're passed in other countries, where a woman who has a miscarriage past that 6 weeks could be imprisoned because abortion would be illegal at that point. I do, however, think that there should be some restrictions in place. I support codifying Roe v. Wade while making sure that during the third trimester, abortion is not an option unless the life or severe health consequences of
Yeah, abortion is absolutely something that I'm uncomfortable with. That's why I know that we have to get to the new world so that we can turn that situation. It is so incredibly important, but it's also important that we get it right all the way through, that people are taken care of, because we can't have laws that don't make sense, but we can't leave women behind. Women are so integral to the human experience, and they play a role in that. Men, they are so integral to the human experience, and they play such an integral role. And no matter what you end up with, what you need the most is people who care. And ultimately speaking, we have to even care about the spirits that are coming in. If we acknowledge we have a spirit at all, if we acknowledge that life starts with a spiritual energy, which I wholeheartedly do believe that, and so then I can't say I don't care. I do. But I am not for change. I believe that the status quo is just right in a greedy world. We see so many scars with this greed and what it has caused. So we just know the truth, how it is. And that in this case, because the greater truth is always what matters most, given the situation, love always makes concessions when it must. And because love is weak right now, because people decided not to have faith in the most powerful strength and power in the human condition that we have, and it's, I contend, our Creator Himself. It's the essence He left within us, the mark on us. Yeah, oh yeah. You know, they say man is made in the image of God, and now you know what that image looks like. It is love, and it's the love that's written on our hearts. But we also have that dirty devil in us, and it's that greed. And so if we allow ourselves to be consumed by that greed, as we currently are, then what we get is what we have now. But that's the thing. We can have so much better. I promise you that. You know it's true. You know the truth that we're talking about. We're not talking about to a figment of my imagination. We're talking about the human experience.
The idea that women's
yes, you know that's so true. That's the human experience. Oh my goodness, we know that within that experience there is this power, love. It is electrifying. It is a choice. You can give it out on choice, and yet it has a reactive power. It comes back tenfold, and that's the beautiful thing. It's the power we can conjure, and it has a feedback loop that goes on for miles. And so that's why we need love. Love fixes all, and love has the way forward in all cases, whether it's so simple or whether it's the most extensive and complicated matter you can imagine. Nuclear physics and extending life. This is where you need love, because it's in passion you solve the human crisis. Adam, I mean, let me tell you, we have not done the things that we did. And from Adam and Eve to the day we are now, if you believe in the Bible, or if you just go with evolution to the day we are now, God and the Creator has room for this story. That's the important thing to know. The way that God gets things done in our lives, it just is His to do.
A replenishment.
Always remember that. And when we do things in that love, such as Albert Einstein, when he created general relativity, I assure you it had nothing to do with greed. It was about the admiration from his compatriots. We care about what we think, we love. We want to be recognized ultimately. That's what matters most in life. We want a life partner that cares about us. We want that covenant of truth in our lives where we can matter and have purpose and value. We want to see the continuity of life. We want to extend our genes. We want to see a new age of love come in. And that's what I sense. That's what the truth tells me. When I see people going about their lives, living in courage, doing themselves as they know how, I relate. And that's the kind of president we need.
Still got abortions because they could travel, they could go to places where it was legal. What we're talking about now is that the people who are denied access to abortion are the poor, are the young, are 14-year-olds who are molested by a family member. And we now have support across this country. 3 out of 4 Americans believe in the rule of Roe versus Wade. When you've got 3 out of 4 Americans supporting it, we should be able to get that passed through Congress. We should not leave this to the Supreme Court. We should do it through democracy because we can.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Senator.
I do think democracy is the way to handle that issue, no doubt. But I just think we have to get our act together.
And President Trump. There are, however, fundamental differences between many of you on this stage. Vice President Biden, just on either side of you, Senator Warren is calling for big structural change. Senator Sanders is calling for a political revolution. Will their visions attract the kind of voters that the Democrats need to beat Donald Trump?
Well, I think their vision is attracting a lot of people.
I don't think so.
I think a lot of what they have to say is really important. But,
I think
Senator
that what's
Warren
going to
said we can't be
happen
running any vague campaigns.
is that we're going to have a problem beating Donald Trump if we don't acknowledge that his voters matter too. That's what I think.
That is probably going to offend some people here, but I'm the only one on the stage that's gotten anything really
And that
big
we're all
done.
Americans.
From the Violence Against Women Act to making sure that we passed the Affordable Care Act to be in a position where we in fact took almost
And
a
that we
$90
all
billion
matter.
act that kept us from going into a depression, putting us in a position where
Their political expedience doesn't matter to the American people. They just want a safe, happy life.
And so the question is, who is best prepared? We all have good ideas. The question is, who's going to be able to get it done? How can you get it done?
That would be your happy healer, of
they
course.
can't, but I'm suggesting that that's what we should look at. And part of
Well, then, if that's what we should look at, why are you speaking and not your happy healer for President of the United States, who's got a plan, who says, I see the problem, who says we've got to put humanity above capitalism, and that's how we resolve and atone that issue of hell that all of us have created. We have to include all of us in the solution because we are all responsible for the hell.
Medicare for all. No, look, here's the deal.
And every single one of your social programs are in risk because this greed is so messy. It makes so many mistakes. It's not efficient.
Let me finish, okay?
You'll both get it.
If you eliminate the entire Pentagon, every single
So
thing,
corrupt, so much.
the buildings, everything, satellites,
Corruption everywhere you go.
pay for.
Unacceptable. Your happy healer for president says we can do better and we must.
Joe, you talked about working with Republicans and getting things done. But you know what you also got done, and I say this as a good friend. You got the disastrous war in Iraq done. You got a bankruptcy bill, which is...
You know what I come free of? I come free of, first off, I'm a first-time candidate, and I work with love. I include others. I know how to listen. It's much more important to be correct so that all of us are correct and so that just I am right. That is a greedy agenda. That is egotistic ideas. People who never say that I'm a condescending... I am not condescending in any sense of the word. These other candidates might be, but for those people that say... I'm conceited because I believe in myself, because I love, because I know I've got the answers. No, that's not conceit, my friends. That is love. I love so hard, you and everyone else, and it's a real love with real faith because I learned that I have to have real love and it needs to start with love for myself. That's the greatest way to be appreciative of the life that I have from our Creator. And then, of course, it's easy for me to have faith because I have seen the modern miracle of life. I know the modern marvel of all the technology, everything that we see, it is all a miracle by God. And beyond that, we see so many other miracles. So many of us are seeing them. The truth and the nature of that truth. It just seems so many people are blinded by their triggers. They can't control their hearts, and that they need ultimately somebody who can be a calming force in their life that can tell them, don't worry, I can see what's happening and everything's going to be just fine. Now that we're here together on this and we're intent on fixing it, and that we can see the truth and that we're working within the truth. The truth sets us free. We know how true that is, and we know just how well that serves us, the truth does, because together with love, it's the essence of God, so that when you believe in that, it's just having faith. And then that having faith becomes a matter of acknowledging the truth and expressing your love. That's not judgment, my friends. That's the way forward. And indeed, we find unity in that place. So many people are there. That's what I have seen when I've campaigned. That's what I was told at the convention. I've used those principles. Even those who are upset with me later came back to me and said, you know, I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to watch and hear what you have to say. You're a unique guy and you're different, and maybe you do have some answers. And that the other side hears you, that makes me hear you too. And you know what? I tell you, that's a special place. We have a unity that's worth saving. Allow us to prop that up. In this campaign, this coming Saturday, I'll be going door to door reminding voters of that. Specifically, in this campaign, what are they doing? The condescending candidates to prove themselves, except for skewing the truth
who fought for it
and blaming each other
pass it into law.
and attacking each other, but they're all working in a skewed idea of what we're all experiencing and what we all wish to see happen. They're not talking about the soft civil war that's destroying our unity. They're not. But yet we know how real it is. I was just at this local Democratic convention, and let me show you here. And I think it's funny, but this is what I bought, and it's our little, you know, you can get this. This is what they're selling at the convention there. And then you have, they said you can make your toilet great again.
Mayor Buttigieg.
I think it's cute, it's funny, and it's definitely a way I can get in with, you know, certain kinds of people. It's just funny. But it's a testament to our times. People are experiencing this extreme hate. And so when I say that, I said that to somebody during the convention. They looked at me and they said, my goodness, you said hate. Oh, God, who are you calling hateful? I don't even want to hear you anymore. Now you're saying that these guys are hateful.
That Trump is an aberration.
I learned something.
That there's any such thing as back to normal.
My approach, I didn't get a chance to explain really where I was coming from, and the fact that we're talking about a human problem, a human condition, something that we're all suffering with, something that's destroying the reality around us and making it possible for any of us to be victorious. This is a cancer in our lives. It's a sickness. It's almost as scientific as a medical problem. It's so real. And everybody knows it. That's the truth. And that if they knew that, then they would be so much more understanding and accepting of what you have to say. And ultimately, everything that I say equals that. And so later he thinks about and acknowledges much of the exchange that we had. Just like the guy behind me in the line who was honking his horn and getting impatient. Well, you know, I'm going to listen to you, he said.
Unless we're also paying for the children of billionaires. Immigration reform isn't enough unless...
And I have that on, I have what happened with that guy on the truck, and I have that in my media. I'm going to be sharing that in future episodes. Every opportunity to learn. We have so much past media to share, but remember, we're focused on the future. We've got so much to do. We'll be growing this campaign and have other people involved that are able to help and assist with the media. People who also live and work in that area of passion, that want to be a part of the future, that want to be a part of what brings in this great new future. That's this promise that to the young people, they want that. They don't want to work their lives away. They want to live their passions. They need an income for all. Social Security is not going to cut it. Not when we have jobs leaving. Jobs and opportunities were something of the 50s. That's when their work could be most appreciated. When we also didn't have technology that they were competing against. So let's be honest about that. And let's free humanity to be the creators and lovers they are meant to be. Let's have a human enlightenment. Let's not deprive ourselves of that.
Now, people who are struggling to pay for health care.
And how many of them are talking about that?
People who are getting crushed by student loans are in a fight today. People who are getting stopped by the police or paid less because of the color of their skin are in a fight today. And anyone who doesn't understand that Americans are already in these fights is not someone who's likely to win them. For me, this is about knowing what's broken, knowing how to fix it, and yes, I'm willing to get out there and fight for it.
Yeah, but Senator Warren, if you knew what was broken, you'd be talking about the same things your HappyHealer for President of the United States is talking about. And as so far as I could tell, you are just as blind as the constituents that we are supposed to lead, ma'am. And that you're not talking about what is right. You're talking about what is expedient. What you heard them say they wanted, oftentimes in the midst of the confusion that nefarious greed has put up for all of us, and that it's causing so many people to be in their hateful corners, and that they're blinded by their hate, and that's what you're following. You have no insight of your own. And I say, to be a leader, you need insight, ma'am, and that you lack leadership skills in that regard. But don't worry, because even you have your HappyHealer for President of the United States. We're going to take this wisdom and truth all the way on over to the White House, and we're going to take it right on past Donald Trump, who uses and excels through hate. So before you use hate inadvertently, not realizing you're doing it, as I know so many people do these days, they masquerade it as the truth. So they tell themselves that. That's the insanity that we live in today. And then so they get mad at you for saying the truth when your truth is the God's honest truth. How much more truthful than the truth can you get to the truth? And these folks, they bend it and they get mad at you for sticking with it. So you have to say, this is about integrity.
Even most people in El Paso, but it was important to those veterans who had served. So we set about turning around the VA, hiring up the
and then you want to ask,
psychologists and therapists to take care
does integrity matter in this election? Because if it matters, then Senator Warren, I think you have to recognize that we're having a humanity issue, and that our human spirit is so sick, it's causing our people to be so ugly. That's where racism is rooted. That's where bigotry is rooted. That's where this misery is rooted. That's where the depression is rooted, the anxiety. That's where all the hell is rooted, and yet nobody's talking about it. So we have to address it. And that's the reason why this greed is so bad, is because it's wrapped up in all we do and in capitalism. That's why we have to, it is so important to put humanity above capitalism, to put it above capitalism. And now they're going on a break here. And so what we'll do, we'll turn that down a bit, and let's just talk a little bit about what we've been listening to, and about just in general what we have to look forward to. And so I'll be reaching out to Chester here. Good man, I've got your card and you're on the agenda if you're paying attention. And also to Michael, and to the many other people, I have the information, and I'll be talking more about that. We are by no means done with the convention coverage. We have so much more to go with that, and we're moving forward in this campaign. We're getting excited about the things we're doing. We're building a 50-state strategy. We're strategizing. So here's the deal, and I'll be saying this often, so listen up. We need to get an office set up in each state, and we need to start working together in the name of love, in the name of what we must do, to work fast, to do the things we must and need to do. So if you're up for the challenge and you're ready to put our self-determination first, you're ready to put this country first, and to set aside any differences you have with other Americans, that we're working for a unity that actually works, and it's based on love, and it's based on a future that makes it better for all of us, including our children. And the best part about it is including our grandparents, because those children have grandparents, and that they also benefit. So we have to do this for everybody, the older people, the younger people, and everybody in between. And the things that come from it is so groundbreaking and so uniting. It changes a generation of people and makes them so happy. And it changes the way we do business in American life. It changes in the sense that we have an evolution of humanity. It is an age of enlightenment. We have had this in the past, and it has been a wonderful time for humanity. Every time we have done this, we have excelled. It's what brought in the great industrial revolution, was the fact that we had, accompanying the great industrial revolution, the enlightenment, the age of enlightenment. So we have to remember that And each time we get enlightenment, we have more technological advancement. And imagine the world that we open up when we do this. It's a spiritual fact that's coupled with a real world around us. Many of us have that faith, of course. But again, we're talking about truth, essentially, and we're talking about love. It's not something to look at and get afraid of. Instead, we get our faith from it. That's why our faith is so strong. It's because the world we see confirms our faith. And that's why it's a magical world and it's so special. And the things that we have to do in that world is so special. And that's why coming this coming Saturday, we're going to be, and I just lost my coverage. It's what threw me off for a moment there. Let me see why that went blank here and try and get it back. I don't know if it's over now. No, it's not over. So it's still just on hold. Okay, so we're still with it. But, it's for us to just, be very serious about our times. And so on this coming Saturday, we're going to be doing a canvassing initiative for the entire country. And realize if you live in one of these, any state, right now we have New York offices. Well, we will. I have to talk to my brother, but I'm sure it's fine. We have our New York offices, we have Florida offices, we have California offices, and we need offices in every other state still. So if you are somebody who is a supporter and you are looking to help in this campaign, contact us at us@HappyHealerForPresident.com. Very simple. us@HappyHealerForPresident.com. And what I'll do is I'll hold up one of these cards. And this was from the Florida Den meeting. So, and I'll be reaching out to these guys, Dale. And so and they're coming back on now. But here's the email.
We are back with the CNN New York Times Democratic presidential debate. We have time for one more question that we would like all of you to weigh in on. Last week, Ellen DeGeneres was criticized.
Okay, so I don't know if you could see that as well, but it's very simple. us@HappyHealerForPresident.com. And now we're going to turn this debate back up so we can tune back into that.
So in that spirit, we'd like you to tell us about a friendship that you've had that would surprise us, what impacts it's had on you and your beliefs. Secretary Castro, let's begin with you.
Well, first of all, thank you to Mark, thank you Anderson, and thank you Aaron and CNN and New York Times and everybody who's here tonight. Some of the most interesting friendships that I've had have been with people different from me, either people older than me that had a lot to teach me, or people who grew up very different from me.
This guy's doing it all wrong.
Growing up,
let me do my answer
life
first.
Experience that when I was growing up was beyond mine. And sometimes also, and this goes to the heart of your question, I think, people who thought differently from me. Folks that I considered and have considered friends. And I think that there's a value to that. I think that should be reflected.
So here's the question. Not name somebody, but think of somebody who has been a personal friend in your life and the effect that they have had on you and the reason that those effects have had, and explain that out, right? And so what he's talking about is generally the kind of people that has had an effect on him. Well, let me do a better way of answering this question, because I have real experiences in a very real life that most Americans can relate with, and I can totally appreciate that question, having lived a life worth living already. We'll start off by saying that. And let me tell you, my ex, for example, is a very close friend now, and I don't throw people away, that I believe wholeheartedly that we are all spiritual beings, and that in this life the most important thing to remember is that, because then you realize you're not the body itself, but that you're something greater that's just above it. You're actually even above death itself, and that your greatest mission is to realize we're all together in this battle. battle, and that you realize that you don't have to wear all your sins, that you're better than your sins, and that you can come together based on what's better for all of us, because ultimately you share a larger energy, that you all come from what that same cloth of energy is, that love of life, that spiritual energy that is. And it's a beautiful thing to know that, because while we know that's true, we also do have very earthly bound lives, and there's a disconnect between our spiritual life and our earthly bound life. And it's a very unhealthy disconnect. It's giving no value to the spiritual side, which is the main part of life. It's the battery to all life. And we just totally disregard it like it has no value whatsoever. And it's the part that makes our happiness so important to have in the first place, because without it, we are blue. And we feel that. And the part of us that feels, it's our spirits. And so we need to embark on a spirit-raising mission. That's why in this candidacy, I know we have to atone so many things, that we get so much power that comes out of that, that love is built on that, and that this is a human endeavor. Remember, I talk about the spirit, but we're humanity, and that God has made us in his image. Never forget that. And so it all makes sense. It's all just, and it's all in a world that makes sense with the current world we see around us, and its justification for actions well spent, endeavors well thought, and actionable intelligence well thought upon. We do this with an effort, a noble one. We're clear-headed about it, so clear-headed, because it's the right thing to do. It's such an easy thing to see. The truth is, we realize people are confused so easily. They lose focus of what's important when they get caught up in what's not important, actually. And that we try to put a microscope on things that what it really needs is a bit of humility, and it needs love and understanding, and we have to stop with judgment. We're doing so much judgment, and we have triggers, things that affect us, and then we react to it, and that makes us very controllable. That's why nefarious forces, they love that about us. So we have to stop that. We're too controllable. And that greed, it can react on that. Markets can react on that. People can make money on that. And in a greedy system, watch out then, because then you have people that are exploiting that. In a loving system, we work to atone that, just like we're atoning everything else. It's important that we have a good, happy human being. That's what's important. That's what all of these systems were made for. Back in the 1800s, when you had horse and buggy, I assure you, greed and capitalism and the way it was set up and the systems that we had, it was the best we could do. The human being was expected to be like a human robot in many ways. But now, that is a forsaken way to treat a human being. We have robots, a gift from God. And we're supposed to use that. And that human beings are meant to be creative and have their income for all and have their fun, okay? Let human beings be human beings. And that's our campaign. So you think about that. That right there ought to just make it. That's the case. That's a beautiful life. That's what we all dream for. And that, my friends, is what they don't want us to have. And so don't you worry, I'm sticking in this campaign and I believe in it. So if you have the ability to open up an office in your state, you're in Nebraska, you listened, you want to be a part of this thing, then contact us. We're listening to everybody. You are part of this campaign and we have room for you. I don't care if we're on 100 million people involved in this campaign. We still want you. We still have room for you. You still matter. You still have purpose, and this is a special family. So get part of the campaign. Help make this grow. This is a great thing to grow. It serves back to the community that serves all of us. And it's the journey that gives all other journeys purpose. So let's embark upon the journey of purpose itself. This is love and this is life. And we either have to do love in this life or we do greed. And so let me tell you about my friend's story. And so my friend...
I saw my colleagues not as Republicans or Democrats, but my fellow El Pasoans who had a responsibility to deliver for our community. As a member of Congress, I remember being in San Antonio. I was visiting the VA.
Like I said, I don't throw people away. And he's gone through so much, and I've watched him go through so much, and I've watched my family go through so much, and I've seen how this greed has destroyed people, turned them into alcoholics and anxiety and drug addiction and death and despair and obesity, and the list just goes on. That hell is so hard to overcome. So I've really developed somebody that cares so much, and I've cared since I was just a little boy. I've always cared, and I've always wanted to be the hero. But the thing about it is, this is a desperate problem. And the hero in this case is, that's how I found the Happy Healer. I had to find that to save myself. So before I could think about saving anybody else, I had to save myself first. Think about that. And that's winning against that disparity. And so we do have so much to fight against, in that people are in such a disparity. And I watch my family, and I have watched my friend who have gone through all these problems and go through even more, and have to deal with the system the way it is, and having mental issues and emotional issues and things that we all deal with ultimately at different points of our lives. And when we do, they almost always get it wrong for us. It's sad. And in my friend's case, and I'm not going to say his name, but I do want to tell his story. And that he actually was somebody that suffered from bipolar disorder and other issues, and it made it really hard. And it's hard on all of us when we go through these kinds of things, when we experience mental conditions. I watched firsthand how this affects somebody and drains the life out of them. It drains the happiness, that feeling of content, that feeling of being warm that I'm offering you in this election through clarity and understanding and love. When you love, you're allowed to have that warmth, okay? And when we love together, we all get to have that, okay? All right? Is that okay? Because we need that. And so I say, that's what my friend was lacking, like so many people today are lacking. They're lacking that feeling of warmth. It's so sad. That feeling that everything will be just fine. And they're worried and so paranoid about everything. Whereas I know everything will just be fine. I have faith it will be. I'm a lover, and I trust in that love, and it comes back tenfold. And I have people who love me back, and love lifts you up, and love inspires, and love does so much. But this greed loves to take, and so the only thing it could ever take from is love. So always remember that fact about that dirty greed, and then act upon that by doing the right thing within the system of greed, that is love, and fight for love, get behind love, support the candidacy of love, that is to say, your Happy Healer's candidacy for President of the United States of America. That one. And we all come together in this system of greed to bring out of it a system of love that we can have a respect for. Love is love. Love is powerful. And love is a system. We know it is. We do it at home all the time. It extends. So what we're essentially doing is extending that covenant. We're saying we care about all each other, not just our families anymore. And that we all matter. And that changes things, because you really have to have that kind of matter to have what's best for this nation. And so that's what we're doing in this campaign. And by the way, that happens to be a very holy endeavor. That's a divine endeavor, because love itself is God, and that the truth and the nature of the situation that we're in is what we have to work ourselves through, and that we have to be honest in. So that's why that love, so powerful it is. It it works through that truth with such power and such motivation and unity and ability and strength that all of the other bottom and lower emotions couldn't muster up, no matter how hard you tried, no matter how much greed you pushed. People can't be moved to do such ugly things, not for greed. So love is that power. Love is what motivates. So I believe that when we build this campaign up, that our supporters will help us win by being so much more committed to the cause of this campaign, that is to say love and humanity in our country, working together for a better life, and putting this front and center and forward, and realizing we are all part of our problems. And because of that, we also get a great age of redemption, that is to say for forgiveness, and that we choose to take ourselves into the 21st century with atonement and a new clean way forward. That's where we find the discoveries. They're talking about cures right now. We find it through our sciences and getting love involved and making sure that we really care for people. Now remember, love is specific in the way it does things. It's not careless. We're not talking about flipping a switch, like opening up jail cells. That's not how we're doing things. We need a simulation, we need care, we need a rehabilitation. And that's the thing. It's more important to see that we get the best result out of love. That everybody, we're all spirits, and at the end of the day, our biggest goal as a collective is to make as much fun for these individual body lives that we can. So as spirits, we got to work together to make the best possible lives. So as individuals, we can then lead those lives. That's what self-determination realized is.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Mayor Buttigieg.
And so we need to elect somebody that can just say that. And all of the truths that we need to hear that inspire us. So I am your inspire and chief. There's my claim to fame. And that's why I'm running, because I need it. Not because I want this more than them. They probably want it more than me, but I need it more than them.
They didn't care what country my dad immigrated from and whether he was documented or not. We just learned to trust each other.
And no, I want it more than them because I need it more than them. And it'll be a dream come true. And we'll put that dream to work. And I'm a gay man too, so we are also going to be the most progressive candidate. And here's the other gay man.
It's also about building a sense of belonging in this country, because I think that's what friendship and that's what service can create. And I think we have a crisis of belonging in this country that is helping to explain so many of our problems, from our politics being what it is, to the fact that people are self-medicating, and we're seeing a rise in the deaths from despair. I believe only the president can build a sense of belonging and purpose for the entire country. The purpose of the presidency is not the glorification of the president. It is the unification of the American people. And I'm asking for your vote to be that president. When the dust clears over the rubble of our norms and institutions at the end of the Trump presidency, pick up the pieces and guide us toward a better future.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Senator Sanders?
When I was chairman...
Yeah, God gave us a way forward for a new beginning, for us to do love. And greed has been trying to kill us in every which way, and God throws in a wrench. And what does greed want to come and do? Bring us right back to where we just came from. I tell you, be brave, listen.
Drawing board, and I worked with John McCain. And I certainly did not get in that legislation, working with McCain, all that I wanted. But it turned out that we were able to pass a very, very significant piece of legislation, including $5 billion more for the Veterans Administration. More recently, I worked with a very conservative Republican from Utah, Mike Lee. And Mike understood, although he and I disagree on everything, that the U.S. involvement in the Saudi-led war in Yemen was a catastrophic disaster for the people of Yemen. And for the first time in 45 years, we were able to get the War Powers Act utilized and get the votes to get the U.S. troops out of that area. But I think at the end of the day, what I appreciate is that we have got to end the hatred that Trump is fostering on our people, the divisiveness. trying to divide us up by the color of our skin or where we were born or our sexual orientation or our religion. And there is no job that I would undertake with more passion than bringing our people together around an agenda that works for every man, woman, and child in this country, rather than the corporate elite and the 1%. A progressive agenda that stands for all is the way that we transform this country.
Senator Sanders, thank you. Senator Warren?
You asked about a surprising friend. For me, it would be Charles Freed. 27 years ago, when I was under consideration for a job, he was someone who had been George Bush the First, Solicitor General, a deeply principled Republican. And we didn't agree on much. I was far more liberal than he was. But he also was willing to listen to my work about what's happening to America's middle class. And Charles engaged with it over and over, and ultimately is the person who made sure I got the job. You know, I grew up out in Oklahoma. I have 3 older brothers. They all served in the military. 2 of the 3 are still Republicans. I love all 3 of my brothers. And there are a lot of things that we're divided on. But there are core things that we believe in together. We want to see all of our children get a good start in life. We don't want to see any of our friends or neighbors not get covered by health care. We're willing to get out there for the things we believe in. Look, people across this country, whether they're Democrats, independents, or Republicans, they know what's broken. They know that we have an America that's working better and better and better for a thinner and thinner and thinner slice at the top and leaving everyone else behind. People across this country, regardless of party, are ready to say no more. We want an America that works for everyone. 2020 is our moment in history. It is a deep honor to be here, to be in this fight. I know what's broken. I know how to fix it. And we are building a grassroots movement to get it done that includes everyone.
Thank you, Senator Warren. Vice President Biden?
This is reassuring. And the fact that we're all acknowledging that we have to reach across the aisle to get things done. No other way to get anything done in this country. The 2 people maybe would surprise you the most were, he's been mentioned twice, but John McCain. John McCain worked for me when he worked in the Navy, and he was assigned to me to travel around the world. We became close friends, became very close friends with my wife, Jill, visited our home. He was there with his children. And on his deathbed, he asked me to do his eulogy. John, I would say to John, you didn't see a war you never wanted to fight, and he'd say, you didn't see a problem you never wanted to solve. But he was a great man of principle. He was honorable. He was honorable. And one of the things, that's the reason why I'm running. We have to restore the soul of this country. That's why I'm doing this. In fact, this president has ripped the soul out of this country, divided us in ways that are absolutely outrageous. A liar, he cheats, he does not do anything to promote people generally. Secondly, we have to rebuild the middle class. And the only way we're going to do that is to be able to reach across the aisle. My dad used to say, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck, Joey. It's about your dignity. We have to restore people's dignity. And lastly, we have to unite the country because, folks, it's time we stop walking around with our heads down. We are better positioned than any country in the world to own the 21st century. So for God's sake, get up. Get up and remember, this is the United States of America. There's nothing we've been unable to do when we decide we're going to do it. Nothing at all. Period.
Candidates, thank you. That concludes the 4th Democratic presidential debate. We want to thank Audubon University for hosting us. Now please stay tuned for CNN for special coverage of tonight's debate with Jake Tapper and Chris Well,
huh? What do we have here? The way greed does things. Undoubtedly, the way greed does things, respectively. We know this to be true. We just know it to be true.
Democratic debate here in Westerville, Ohio tonight.
Because if the best argument was what got forward, well then we'd be hearing your HappyHealer up there. So we know that's not the truth. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we are going to move on to another gear. And I want to share some more information moving off of last evening, and also talk more about what we're doing in this campaign too. And we just had the debate, that was great, but we have more work to do, because in this campaign we have so much to share, and we have to share so much information to help enlighten people and to help make them better. That's part of our work. If we're to have an enlightenment, that's part of what an enlightenment is. And so it's helping people move along. It's helping them gain the skills needed in order to feel better about their lives. And so I'm very humble in that. I'm very specific in that. And I'm speaking to the soul in that regard. In that I'm proud to do that. In that when trusted to do that. Because I'm speaking always from my honest broker of truth. And that if I were to pick sides, and that's why I'm so careful in not doing that, because the truth of the matter is everybody matters, and we all have purpose and value, and we have to stay true to that. And that's what the President of the United States should possess, if the President of the United States is to possess integrity, and integrity that we can respect and that we can all follow. It's so important that we have that. So, while they're out there talking about perfection being a qualification as if it were, and that's seemingly what most people are out themselves looking for, and we know why that's the case. It's because greed requires that. It's because we want our people to be so perfect that we want them to be the exception to the rule, because everybody's so greedy. And what happens is these people merely end up being the best liars, because everybody's not perfect. There is no such thing as perfection. But what there is there's love. And that love, when done right, that is perfect. And so, while we don't have perfection itself, we do have love. And doesn't it make sense then that love and the truth of creation itself as we see it, doesn't it make sense that that would be our creator then? Think about that. Yeah, I love you guys so much, and it's the truth. You know, and I know that sounds corny, and I say, well, then I'll just have to sound corny then, because it's the truth. It's why I'm doing this. You got me. I care. I care. And that's why I'm here. Because I know we deserve better. And that if one of us don't do it, we're not getting it. And that the way they're talking, we're not getting it. I'm going to be a 41-year-old man. I know that we ought to have had these kinds of things happening. This was the reality we've all seen. We know it should have been true by now. And we're all upset about that. And we're going backwards. We're putting people back in the factories. We need to be putting them out of the factories and in their homes, working on humanity and becoming better. So we do have a bit more to cover. And this coming Saturday, if you're able to join our National Canvas Day, remember, I'm going to be putting out more information. It's going to go on the website, go to the blog area, but also I'm going to set up a whole nother page dedicated to our volunteer work, dedicated to our Get Out the Vote effort, dedicated to our registering new voters in your local state area. And we're working on building a coalition and a 50-state effort, a 50-state strategy, so that we could win this race in a realistic way. We have to manage this campaign, and in the absence of a campaign manager, your Happy Healer has to also do a lot of work in this regard. We'll get the campaign manager at the right time. That's what I'll say. In the meantime, we're building a 50-state strategy, and we're doing that hard work. So, US at HappyHealerForPresident.com. US at HappyHealerForPresident.com. And you see right here the address on your screen. Just take away the www dot and instead put a US at, and there's the email. Okay, let's get this party on the road, shall we? Oh yeah. I can't wait to be in the White House, cutting up and joking with all the reporters, telling them how I love them so much and making them just feel so loved. Oh, I can't wait for that day. And we'll be doing so many great things and making this country feel just so great. I just can't wait for it, and it's a dream come true, because you're happy and you're humble and you're wholesome and you're true to the cause. Happy Healer for President of the United States. He who was the founder of Landi, the Brands of Passions, that is the 40 Brands of Passions, dedicated to bringing humanity up in the name of passion. This is the kind of essence we are working with, and inspiration. This is what the Inspirer-in-Chief does to inspire the people. And so we have the truth coupled with that kind of care. We have to have passions in our lives. That's how we build that value. And because there's so much to this, we have so much to go over, and I've been talking so much, so allow me to keep my voice going as well. And we'll get through this campaign, and we'll talk about the things you need to hear about. And trust me, if in your life you have somebody that has gone through so much and you know that they could benefit from the kinds of things that your Happy Healer teaches, and you know I was telling you about my friend, I really didn't get a chance to, that's kind of a long story. The fact is that I helped a friend get through a lot of problems, and not just a friend, many friends. So really, this is a lot of people. It's not even just one person. And I've seen them through so many of their problems, and that in the end, love always works, and that just honest care and understanding the truth. People want to make sense out of the world. They want to know why all the hell is coming at them, and that what can they do to have a happier life, and how can they be content within it. If you know somebody that could benefit from that, then send them to me, because I teach that as their Happy Healer. And as President of the United States, I will continue teaching that, because we have to raise the spectra in the human spirit. So even if you know yourself and that you're fine, I assure you, you will be lifted up in the sweep that is the human spirit that lifts all of us in love. But if you are fine, that's what you have to look forward to. But if you are sick and feeling bad or depressed, you know you have so much to gain. And everybody has to gain that. And you'll gain those feelings even in this campaign before I take office, because we have been about these principles and values the whole way. That's what drives your Happy Healer forward. That's what keeps me going. My love for my family, my love for my nephew, who spent his first 3.5 years of his life in my home, and he's like my son. And in fact, I have all my nephews and my darling nieces. They're almost just like my children. I care about them so much. The parents are my siblings, and that is all a gift from our Creator. That's the kind of love that we have to have and show for each other, the appreciation in the sense that love really truly is a choice, and at the heart of it, we all care, and we want to see better for each other, and that we'll see each other through all human matters, and that we owe it to each other to solve the crises that we're dealing with, such as cancer, such as HIV, such as the human crisis that we're dealing with, the anxiety that's leading to people turning to terrorism. Unbelievable. I mean, how upset and how insane, really. And I tell it just comes from this hate that's within. It's boiling over and coming out of people. And you see a lot of this stuff is built around politics, and that's why I say I'm not even a very political person, but that's exactly why I'm a great presidential candidate. So, and I come at people and I talk to them about their hate, and they say, hey, thinking I'm political, you can't be talking about their hate. You know, I'm not on that same level. I'm talking about true love. I care about you. I want to see us all do well. It's the truth that matters. I'm talking about the divine spirit. I'm talking about the holy matrimony of that unbiased truth and the relationship we have with it. Okay? That's a holy matrimony. If we don't have that relationship with the truth and a commitment to it, then we have problems. I'm talking about that. And so this is a charge to keep. It's faith, all of that. And when you're putting that at stake for a political expediency, to me, you lose something. And I wouldn't expect you to support me for president if I did that. And by golly, why would you ever let me get away with it? And why would you let anyone get away with it? And if you wouldn't let anyone get away with it, that means I'm your only qualified candidate, isn't it? That's just the truth in these days. And so that's where we are. In that we have somebody so special in the truth standing forward before to you now, so eager to share that truth with you in the name of love, and knowing that we can all do better in that truth, and that we could all succeed in that truth, and that we could all win in that truth for a better America, for America that serves our children, it serves our future, serves our interests, our passions, the reasons that make us want life. It serves life, so it serves our future. And in that future we build. That's where the abundance comes from. It's because you have so many happy people that are building a life worth living, their life worth living, and they're getting the exceptional appreciation from their compatriots and a humanity that care, versus now, where if it doesn't make dollars, it don't make sense. No, that's not the world we live in. We live in where humanity matters, and every person has purpose and value and a reason for living. That's our job. That's our role in the 21st century. We owe it to ourselves to become that. That's what progression looks like. And if we don't get to that work, we will not solve the racism. That's why people say we need these changes, but then they say we got to do that hard work, but then they never say what that hard work is. That's the difference between my campaign and theirs. I'm living that. I'm living what the hard work looks like. So it's not even about a religious statement, my faith and my relationship with God. It's about me finding the truth and what I feel is the truth. And it just so happens that, wouldn't it be bad if in the effort to be finding the truth, you believed there is no God? And that in the very notion of believing in a pessimistic world that must be true in, that is what pessimism is, then you are automatically discounting the actual truth that there really was a God, let's say. And oh boy, how wrong you got it. Think about that. Think about that, because science can't rule out a God. In fact, if you ask me, everything science does proves God's way of making reality happen. It might be a digital reality of some sort. God has his own miracles to work out. That's not for us to say, quite simply. But the truth of it is, we have a truth, and we have to acknowledge it. It's so beautiful, really. And we come together in that truth, and we have a certain understanding. And that's why so many people are upset, and they don't know how to word all of these things, but they can appreciate when they hear the truth, and they know that that's the thing to do. So why would anybody give up a future that promises so much in the forces and the power of love, something we all crave? It's why we do anything. It's why we live. It's what we did all this for. It's what we hoped we could wish we could get to. And that's what we offer. And we do it because we know what we must do. We have to put it into our laws. We put humanity above capitalism. Not to say that a dollar is to dictate a human life, that we'll say we'll put dollars before human lives. That's not happening because we're not going to let human beings die on the streets as they do today. Today is October 15th, and we have the Democratic debate going on just a moment ago, and at the same time about to share with you some of the most important information that one can conjure up based on the actual truth of our times. That is very powerful, and I ask you to hear me out. And I've been so busy in God's pure wisdom, something that keeps me spouting out new information at record and fast-paced, keeping up my brothers and sisters, and indeed my constituents and the American families, complete with the dreams that, together with the pains of our parents, we know is so true. We need to address these things and make it so that we flourish. Then we know that we're answering to the actual needs and concerns of our people. So thank you for tuning in last night. We covered so much, and we'll pick up on that conversation tonight. And we'll bring this ball forward, which includes this Saturday and every Saturday from now on until the election. We'll be getting people registered and making a difference. We'll be making this our main priority and watching our people grow. And think about it, our team. We have people, one team, and we're happy healers intent on love and truth, working for our benefit in ways that enhance every life, from the billionaire on down to the housewife. And they both can fully and completely say they have a life worth living, and that they're happy and excited to live that life. It's a real life worth living. And that is one where we make the journey that makes all other journeys have purpose. We give value to the human experience. We get to fix so much by doing that, and we'll demand it. This is a justifiable and honestable journey, and it's something we take an honor to do. I'm already fighting for what is best for you. You should really help in our campaign of love and pursuit of happiness. How can people miss this stuff? People say I'm funny at times, and I think it's just because it's the truth, and so many people are looking at my experiences and realizing how I must see the world. Yes, it's very upside down to me, and I'm perpetually shocked. Please don't go out of your way to shock me anymore, okay? Because I've already been shocked enough, and now it's time to get this right, my friends. In the battle of devil versus God, evil versus goodness, it's all the same thing. Greed versus love, it's all that greed versus love, because it's the fight that's taking on the inside of us that matters, and it's that we've made progress, and every time we gravitate towards love, it brings us closer to God and truth. Because when you're in God's light, it's wisdom too, and we all gain from that. That's the beauty of it. However, through it all, we never had to believe in the God of the Bible. You only have to believe in the love and truth. So if you're an atheist, you get it too, because the truth matches the real life around us. And it's the real cause to humanity. Come with me on this journey. I approve of this message. The greed in us is the mark of the beast on us. And what makes me most concerned is that the devil in our time is confusing the truth for anything but the truth. And yet the truth is out there to see. And what people are doing in very nefarious places and still littered with so much hate and bias, which is a telltale mark of the beast. The greed in us is the mark of the beast on us. And what I say that these folks, the closer they get to the truth but still use greed, it only means then that it's much more compelling in their lives and hate, that they spew out so much and use that truth that they do have to compel. But we shall set the record straight, and I can stand here as a gay man and tell you this truth right in front of them, and it makes it no less true. And I could do what I do, open in a compelling way, and be effective doing it, and bringing all sides inward to a unity, and all through with the power of the actual unbiased truth coupled with the humility and honesty of love. Being honest is loving, truth is love, just it is truth. That is the power of the actual truth spoken from the unbiased broker of truth in each of us. And what is that truth? I will be as clear as day when reprimanding. Love and humility has that power. It overcomes the devil's mockery every day and all the time. And from this holy place I say to the actual sinners, by using God's name in vain, the actual truth from the unbiased broker of truth, and in the face of lies and hate. And I was honest in saying that they were wrong and how they ran so many gays away from God. And those who acted in self-righteous attacks and judgment against God's truth instead of having faith in it. And yet we could all do better, including gays, is the real actual truth. And yet we all deserve to have our salvation. And when you get that close to the actual truth of God's creation and then use it for greed because they still lack the actual truth. For example, I see many of these folks who are getting pretty close to correct ideas that represent what I see in the unbiased realm of truth has been so much closer than others, and yet they still inject the biased judgment of hate against, for example, God's gays. And we know that they're God's because God created all. And that from an unbiased truth, it's not simple. And that those folks lack the truth of faith. And I'll say this again. The truth of faith in God's plan standing right before them and staring back at them in the eye. It says, hi, hello, how are you? I am God's truth. I am gay. And stop persecuting me. I did nothing to you. And yet you feel more righteous than I. Think not, stricken down. It's clear you fail God. And that is the truth. And that is why we must all get out of judgment. God told us that much through the old truth and studying the Bible itself, and we failed to follow that. So, even Christians who for so long felt so close to the answers that God or Ode's throne, but still they failed. And we all know that to be true if we're honest with ourselves. I sure know that non-believers know that to be true. They tried to make the self-righteous world's mesh with God's grace and love poured upon them. They had no idea what to even do with God's pure and undying love. It felt free in greed. But it's not. Love provides just as greed attempts, but it does it much better, is all, and it creates all. And so it has that going for it. And greed, when it needs, it steals. So when it feels it needs and it masquerades as love, it has to steal from love to do that. So it masquerades as love. But when love is in power and needs fuel, it needs and it creates, because it's the creation force in us. And it shall create when it needs, as it meets, and it uses its own devices. Outside of its own devices, it has allies in love, and they're married in love. And love always has answers, and it always cares, and it affords a smile on every face. So, in God's love, it felt in the past completely inadequate, and we're not beneficiary as much information as we have. For the fact that we have our HappyHealer love and many others who are experiencing some supernatural force of nature, seemingly making us brighter, smarter, younger, happier, and less confused. The world needs that, and they need somebody like that to be president. I don't even care if it's me per se. The fact is, the greed needs to be dealt with, and that it will take somebody with all the knowledge God has dropped on me. And that is a fact. It's a humble fact. How can I not act knowing all this? You tell me that. I couldn't live with myself. I am doing what my duty and love and humanity requires. And the fact that I understand that my worth and value, and that this true, selfless self-worth, not egocentric ideas, which is what I call that, because that is not self-worth, that is negative worth, and it's killing us. So, it's our selfless self-worth that is missing from so many of us, which is why no one is acting. Courage is a big deal. People act in either courage or eagerness, love or greed, and that is it. Folks, this truth is about as clear as it will ever get, and it's complex. And I have a complete idea of what I do mean, and I have been trying to tell this story, and yet this story needs power. It needs a better way forward, and the country needs somebody like me, and I feel uniquely prepared with a vision tailor-made for our times, because it's the actual, unbiased truth that actually also unites. It's not the perfect truth that understands everything, but it's the most perfect truth that has a forward working and a democracy that your happy healer for president is therefore a great candidacy is all it means to say that I'm prepared in this truth. The truth is like many of us and those who acted in that kindness short of sightedness. They need truth. They're perhaps the most clamoring for it. They love me, I say. I give them so much solace and calming vibes. And I give them knowledge, and knowledge is peace. And I'm especially good at that as your happy healer love. I care, and I'm humble in that care. And most important to me is that I'm effective. I want to be good. I want to be good for my fellow of man who needs me. And that's what God wants of all of us, most of all. That is a world that makes sense to me. One the devil would not like so much. I've helped people who have hated gays, who then like them and seemingly profusely apologize to your happy healer. Why not put someone like that forward? Why do we do things so backward and insist on doing it that way also? Doesn't make sense. So it's that simple. And that lust, it will be a death sentence for anyone. We all get lost sometimes. It shouldn't be a death sentence, however. So it's time to get found, and we'll do it with your happy healer love nuts. We get found. And that confusion mixed with promise of reward is the devil at work. And yet the Bible uses that force too, and don't they sound like we are talking about the same exact thing in certain terms? Except one version fits the actual truth, the truth of creation and the fact in history as it's currently playing out all around us and as we see it, as it's true to our experiences. They tried to make God's love actual work with greed and mesh with greed, and that was their mistake. Greed is of the devil, and we see that clearly, and we always have. And yet we try to deceive ourselves. And so the way forward is to get better at that. And love makes compromise. But in the America we see today, leave is a free thing to make no benefit to no one, says in the name of greed, and that is just the way it must be. Love makes compromise, but in the America we see today, love is just lost. It's no benefit to anyone. And that's the way it's going to be until we change it. My point is, people better start realizing what it means to be more giving. Right now, we need to recognize that this greed is killing too many people each year that aren't even counted in any reports, and they're amassed in so many ways, and they're not accounted for, and when they are, it's incorrect. These deaths were avoidable in love. And had we been doing our job, this wouldn't have happened. We need to do that better, and that's what making compromise should look like. It should look like actual progress, and it doesn't. So their compromise is not right. It looks like death, but not just death. It looks like death increasing. compounding and getting worse, and undying greed in every man, even hateful and greedy in their hate. We must realize and atone that situation. And the way we do that is we get the power of love, the power which shows you unbiased truth, that you can agree with the truth that you know to be truth. That is coming from the right place. That leaves nothing to chance or with a misunderstanding. That's what you're looking for. And when you find it, your job is to trust it. What they're doing is only working for greed. And we know what that looks like. And we're speaking from the unbiased broker of truth within, and they know it. We're being more than fair in our assessment in the fact that greed is wrong to be better. To trust in better, not to throw away progress made. To build on it, on God's ways, and to find, albeit what we may, in a way that represents science and truth, coupled with a path that is wholly inspired and ready to do tough work and meet challenging times, and that's all that means. And to non-believers, I say stop being afraid of things that will save your life on this earth and in this life. All else is failing, and death and misery and suffering. And I have been paying attention to understand without the greedy bias. So take it from your unbiased broker of truth, your happy healer love nuts, that's me. Smile. And be sure to pay strict attention to my conversations, will ya? I proudly put my truth against all comers. The truth is easy like that. It allows for that. But let us not know it and still be wrong, and we be lying and unable to act like a deer in the headlights, shocked about everything. As I say, I need your help. Donate to my campaign. I want to do so many things, and I wish always I could do more. But that's love. That's how greed and the devil convinced you that I was free. But you know that if you starve anything that lives, it dies. Love is a way of life just like anything else, and the best way of life of all. And to know and to not act is dangerous, folks. But to know it and not do anything still equals death, in my humble opinion. Because this state of the world and that greed has no way out. War in all directions. It's within. They all want to throw each other in prison. It's way too much. And I'm the way out. Another way. That's why I'm running. And for those more religious and yet practical to truth and the elements that we can't avoid that truth, that it's making this situation clear. It's the final piece of the puzzle, according to your own hell, according to the facts that we can all see. And for you more than I is the Bible. But you know, you've had to have the option of truth. And well, folks, the way I see it, this is that option. Because life is for so long looking for answers to prove the need that God is either not real, or how could he create a world and then in no way leave us for happiness in this life? Why am I gay? How come I feel things so hard and that I have to make the pain go away with the pain pill addiction that I had, and that's something I had to deal with in my life? That's so unfair, right? Why is that pain so hard? Is all pain like this? Do others even feel it that way? Before I could remember anything at all, I couldn't even remember pain. But now in my knowledge, the power of knowledge seems to also come with the pain. The pain of inaction is killing me. And I know too much and feel too little getting done. I know others are feeling this way too. And oh gosh, this complicated hell of a truth, I know that they're confused and that they're no closer to the truth in the years that it took me. Gosh, oh my God, I had my time and they do not even have that. My goodness, this is my perception, my life, my world. perhaps my universe. To do what with it? I don't even know. Perhaps just sit here and until all it implodes. That is, until I see things progressing. And I can't believe not one soul is acting in accordance with life-saving ideas that bring us out of war. Not one candidate. People have lost their minds in hate, I say. I only do love, and that's why I do that. And that's how I became your happy healer. That's how I speak my truth, that I don't do lies. I can't do that and remain a whole person. And guess what? Nor can anyone else. Not in this lifetime and still be true to themselves. Nope, not possible. And I've been through enough hardship and hell to have learned those lessons. And that's all that means. It has prepared me. It's given me the perception to perceive. And with it, if I do nothing, how would that be me helping anyone? No, that would be dreadful and shameful and unbecoming of the happy healer love way. I'm here to win. I'm here to beat Donald Trump. I am here to help Democrats, help Republicans, help all Americans, all of our children, and as it turns out, a promised age of redemption where we can pull back from the Civil War tactics that's leading to a more dangerous world. That we must not have a jail everyone and throw the keys away mentality that we seem to have on both sides now. We must take a breather and take the victims of greed, which is everyone, give them reprieve, which is everyone, and we all deserve some forgiving, and that is how we get on to better days. That greed is an evil bastard and we know it. So we need a great age of redemption that emphasizes on love. How would we treat a family member that did something wrong? How would we treat a family member that did something wrong? We would seek to rehabilitate them, and we would want to see them get better and come out of their insanity, just as many seem to be acting these days. And for those that are insane and are not felons should count themselves very lucky in a world they dole it out on everyone. And don't give people a reason to make you a victim. That's why I say love. And these greedy forces are at work with these loving forces. And we better come out the great to the power of 10. At least those dabbling in love, because love is an entire system and a working theory of life that leaves you a winner in all situations. And then when done right, it's actually so amazing. It's great living virtuous values that really serve to the greatest extent self, but in recognition of what that means to the unbiased truth of the shared world in which we all live. We share a world, and it's incumbent upon us to stop pretending we're known to an individual only responsible to self and happiness to self, whose truth goes in the face of that idea. The world's truth says you better come together and solve this. In this world, you owe your very creation as a result of forces outside of your own, yet you think you are self-made. That is an egotistical and egocentric idea that is from greed and clearly lies. It demands an allocation of its scarcity, while love provides an abundance and appreciation of life itself and the creation it makes. Greed kills, so get humble quick. And then, so that's how humility and love, and in this case, relying for rehabilitation to let people that need improvement in so many ways, and that is how we should treat all people, not just criminals. We need to do better or we will not prevail. And then we will know what we are doing right. And folks, I feel this is a fair world after so much thought and meditation, and this is how we get there. That is my plan, and I will continue sharing that plan. They failed, and yet we need to atone. We all need to atone. We all have that need. It's the way to a happy life on this earth. So the devil wants us to believe in an incomprehensible world, but we also have love, and we look deep into each of this, and we know that there's two sides of the same coin in this story. We're one person, each of us an individual, possessing human dreams and ambitions, wants and desires, none of which really differ all that much from each other in God's plan, and yet we never trust in it, and He gave us the tools to progress through time and get better at what we do. Indeed, a technological revolution, and to America He has given the greatest amount of wealth, and with that we are supposed to do the actual thing, which was to improve lives for those in our grasp, Americans. We failed to do that by letting greed win instead of letting us win and having the best days of human existence, and instead we have war and hatred, and it's now threatening our very existence. Folks, it's in God's plan, in that we have a human enlightenment and that we grow this natural world around us. The truth is we see it unbiased and true. We see that truth written in nature, and that we have a history of dark ages to learn from. We know that we don't need more of those, and what it would mean in today's age if we did, and yet our choices are leading us there. And that's the nature of God's truth versus greed, and where each one takes us over time. And that's the story of our truth. God makes this so clear to see. How can you have let yourself become so drunk in greed that you lack real faith in God's plan? That's my question to the honest broker of truth. That to a preacher who only sounds off in greed with you, who has your ear. Never mind that your preacher sometimes makes money in the system of greed. That we need change, and that we need it for sanity. We need it for the continuity of life itself. And I'm stepping forth because I have a unique experience and preparation, has me most prepared than any other candidate to be president. Further, when those greedy bastards get so close to truth, watch out when they use it for greedy, and even their greedy and their hateful intent where they intend to do with consequential material from God's unbiased truth and love. That is the nature of the greedy bastard folks within us. Don't let it happen on your watch. Just let the Happy Healer love win. And let me do the hard work. Have faith in that, and I have the courage to do this. We have to put somebody who loves forward, and that's what our mission is at this point, and that's what makes our needs so important. So we know that greed is seeking to muddy the waters, and the fact is, I'm just going to turn this music off. I want you guys to hear me well. And we must include all people in this covenant of love, and that's the way to harmony, and that's what makes us get better. That brings us to the next frontier of discovery and purpose in this evolution of life. Gone are the days of thinking in terms of yourself for the greatest happiness, just for you. It's not to be found there. It's in love. And love is a collective. And that we must take a step back and see how we have been doing as a collective. As a collective, we have been alive for a long time and seen so much through history and keep repeating the same mistakes. Any individual alone would have long ago learned how to love itself, and we have little representation of what it looks like to be loving because our collective spirit is a real thing and it's immortal. Our American spirit is nothing more than a greater representation of our collective spirit, and it's our fathers, creators' determination, and it's nothing less than death and despair to not do that. So what should we do? And it's clear that we should stop that death and despair. That's why it's so important to see humans happy. and you see children who are tragically killed with their lunch boxes that they would have had with them, and the mother commemorated them. And had we have driverless cars like we should in this age, then that would not have happened, in my view. And we should be much faster in serving God's love in a collective. And so I'll be doing a show soon that'll speak to God's love, and we do it all the time. And I think it's important to hear this too, though, because it teaches and gives you a better understanding of why that is playing all around us that we see. And if we just pay attention to that, we'll figure out so much about how to deal with our current crisis. As it is, I can say with adamant certainty that truth and love together with an unbiased truth, and that at least an unbiased truth with an open view, as it may be, and for ourselves to discover it so that you can then ascertain what you see and believe. When one looks at the world in such ways, they discover that the truth is so much different than they thought, and they lack in the understanding of the truth that gets in the way with our growth and even gets in the way with our ability to grow, which I'll get into that in a bit, and I know what that is too. And it's not a good entity, if you know what I mean. The point is that we have human conditions, and we can approach everything I say with a scientific view, and it still holds true. Why? Because this is God's world, His creation, and everything in it is for Him to be as He wishes, and for us to study that. And science doesn't allow God, but on the contrary, it's His very truth that speaks to us in His plainest of terms. When you combine it with all the other things we know, you could almost see a personality emerge, really, in my view. That is what a world that makes sense looks like. And your Happy Healer for president, he has faith. You better believe that. And we're going to be getting more into that all the time, and even throughout this week as we excel in these programs and in this candidacy. I would now like to make a prayer for the children. And they're so pure, so innocent. Much like their Happy Healer love, they just love. And love to its core is so innocent. When you choose a life of love, you choose life itself. And in this life, we are only here to love in truth. If we can understand how the reality of God's world is working with the natural world, and understand that that's together with it, that we have two, whether for religious or continuity of life, we come together as a species in love. And that is how God's love is. It's just really the truth, as I say. So I imagine them girls just saying, "Mommy, that was so sweet. I love you, Mommy. I wish I was there so that we could play with the new lunch boxes. I love mine. And I miss playing, and I miss having fun and having you, Mommy." I'm sure that's what she would have said, because that's in life what I always most want to do myself. I want to love and value life. We grow as adults and our needs grow. But when we love, we always realize those needs are each other, and we see it so clearly out of greed's hold, and that love's embrace tells us that's true. So this evening I say, God bless those girls, and may God, whom has really blessed us with all the tools we need, may He now bless these fine children and the spirits and the mother who's still living. Give us the courage to love and to trust in God's love and to believe in God's love and to inspire us all to get to a loving place. That's what I hope for. And ultimately to realize that that is the purpose of life, to love. And if our determination prove true, that indeed even protects greed's lies for the greatest good and love and truth. Just as the lone loving and lonely wishing better for days, conservative, wanting for happiness is willing for the progressive guy also, just wanting for better times, we all agree it's time to realize that which we share, explained in simple terms, and to go there. That's what we're actually doing in this campaign. Stick up with us. Keep up. I'll tell you what. Go to Happy Healer for President. Come, make a donation. And be sure to catch all the programming that's available through the social media, and it's connected to the website, HappyHealerForPresident.com. The next airing program on the site soon, as well as my profiles on YouTube and Twitch. Life is so serious. And you know, I'm so sorry for this loss that those girls had, and I just gotta say, God bless those children, and God bless those parents too, and God bless us all. And may God bless your families and our American family. And may we do good work ourselves through sharing compassion, to share our assistance in the name of love. My prayers will go out and share evident in our progress and abilities. It's our love to share. We have our campaign doing not like any before, and it's doing so much to keep up with media that lifts your entire family. And I'll include a special prayer for our continued success. Let's just take a moment and think about all that takes from Columbine to recent events and all insanity that we have seen throughout time. Let's put an end to this insanity by repairing our broken spirit, by putting humanity over capitalism, which is to provide that humanity has value, and put it into the law. And we'll go much further in that, however, and we'll actually deliver to the human experience justice. That's what love wants, and we shall pray for that justice. And for those victims, because all of us could be victims. And that love ensures the way, and that we stand in scarcity, wasteful in our attempt to be righteous. We wasted so much. We will learn to do better and find a way through human compassion and love. Now let's take a moment and bow our heads in remembrance past and future victims of greed, and feel the feelings of resolve that places and replaces confusion in its right place and out of our lives. And let us pray and lead us into silence for 10 seconds. Today we're talking about trust, justice, and faith. I know we have been in greed a lot, but greed never goes away. It's our great challenge. It's the devil within our human condition. So it's our responsibility and our need to beat this devil, that we can see it and talk about it. It makes it real, and that is what we have to do, folks. And that is what I will do as president. Just teach and learn about it when we're going out and we're canvassing, and we're going to talk about the truth of our times to make things better. First in your own life, because you matter, and then of course in others, that we're lifting our people up. We have a different way of doing things. Humanity matters. Here it goes. As I say, that it's for all of us to love all, and that is what makes us the rich we really are shine, and that's what we get the honor and privilege of telling our true stories. That's what real wealth is made of, and it's something you care about, and you want to make it your best story ever when you tell your story, and that is so beautiful. So we get out there and we tell our stories. And some people recently, someone just asked me a really interesting question, and somebody asked me, what is justice in your mind? And I therefore thought long and hard about it. And I meditated on it and prayed on it just so I can get it right for this young man. After all, that is an important question by one of God's children in love. That in love we are innocent. That means in love we are smarter and younger, happier, and we think in terms of our stories because we know that we matter and that we want to offer our own stories. We get that. And it's so important we share it. And for me, what is best of all, I have my innocence. And that I know my worth and I know my innocence. That is to say, I know you. I love you. And I want the best for you, even if I don't know your name yet. Because that is what I want to know next. And I knew you were coming. God always senses his flock. They get killed by the devil and greed. It's the great sacrifice God has to keep making. And love has to keep making, and the one who even sent himself here through his creation, we ignored all. We only needed to love. And that's the truth. Even those who pretend to understand full grace is having the hardest times in practice, but they sure do see the truth, as we all do. And because this greedy world that doesn't give you the chance of another to live a life that is in love without you, that is having to fight against the greed and the energy it takes to do that. And that's what I've discovered and call it, and that's why I call it, it's got to be that devil. And that's why, here is why we literally have that choice, that we have to do love versus greed. And yet we presented that choice to ourselves and we fail it, and we have lack of faith, and that's why. So that's why we're failing, and I understand. And this is the greatest part of all that, just that my understanding is. And I know we feel that we do our right and we're doing our best that's worthy of living in love while living in greed, and that we have to justify our greed while others are dying. And we have to justify that somehow, and knowing that our time can come at any point, that we have to protect our lives. And so we just want to love. That's all we've ever wanted to do. And all we get is greed. And it's a shame. And it takes away from what's really possible in love. It's learned. That's why it mocks. And it cuts off the last thing it ever wants is for the daylight of truth to come out in order to give inspiration to new lovers, happy and confident, to give strong love and share it and grow it. And now we get on to what is justice. Justice is just like all of God's truth. It's that simple, and it has a much deeper explanation, and it never stops getting deeper. But it's up to greed how far justice needs to go. It's a reaction force of love that demands for all of us, the best of us, the deal that works for all of us, that it's built in justice and benefit of all, and the greatest deal for love. And that's what justice is. It wants for us to have the greatest amount of love and happiness in our lives, given the possibilities of our abilities through love and in God's truth, the conditions. That is justice. That's why this technological state being here and for us to do nothing about it is not okay. Conservatives who love God and ultimately get and serves to that grace of God's word, the humility of understanding, perfection is for God. Truth and experience and happiness is for us. It's the reason why God has made us. And I say stop double guessing God. Have faith. It's clear what he wants, and what he wants is justice. We are all the Son. I learned in the most unimaginable of ways that has threatened me at one point, who's now a supporter, and is now at a time when I'm making all these sacrifices and running for president. He gets me largely now, and at one point said things he couldn't take back, and greed would have had him pay with his freedom for that slip of the tongue. And I just allow my love to step up, and I let that work. And I'm just one person, and I take that so seriously, so I figured out who I could best tell him. And all this happened for an instant for your Happy Healer love. This is my world of love. I experience time very weird, to be honest. I don't throw experiences away. I have learned not to judge, and I use so much caution. And I get each one of us have a story so unique to our own perception of this world. So do I. It's unsuspecting when somebody attempts to live a life worth living. The rest of us, through that dirty, dirty devil, mock them. And they stop doing the things that give them value and purpose. They were taught a lesson by greed, which always says we are not worthy, and nor is our love. So with that, they stop living their fate, and I see that all the time. And they miss out on their dream. Now they're quick back, waiting on hell and working through greed and trying to feed the family, and they're largely giving up on God's love. lack of faith is prevalent, so I teach faith and justice. That's my way of helping. When you listen to greed then you're susceptible to it. And you're a good guy again to the rest of other people who like greed. But it's at the cost of your inherent human value as a human being. And that's why I need humility. Because I know the right thing to do. We have to grow, live, love, and learn. For the rest of my life, I feel I shouldn't be concerned with just me. I'm more concerned with all of us, and that's also what is best just for me. And I will prove that so more people will do that. And that's when you do love and truth in full power. And that when you do for others, you're doing the greatest good for yourself ultimately. And that's what greed takes when it takes from our collective. We can only have that in the collective. So, what is justice? Justice is our ability to grow within God's unbiased love and learn on God's unbiased truth and creation all around us, and that in order to benefit from the caring attribution of God's love and action, we must show that love in the collection and know that in the truest sense what is right, what's best for us is also what's most and best for our Creator. That is the type of work our Creator has come upon us, humanity, the purpose for us. So the way I see it's our reason so dear to our heart to have self-determination is so that we're so free to explore, to learn and love, and to learn in life. And we utterly fail to do that in the way that God has intended for us, to say that we have justice. And so we know that we don't have justice no matter what. That's why so many people are upset. In my meditation, that's what I think about, and all roads take me back to love. And that there is a way. And that because I give this stuff a lot of thought and never stop thinking about it, I'm always looking for ways to score for God's love, for justice, and what it really means, which is the ability for us to share with our God and our self-determination, to see us through to free choice in this life. I do as well. So self-determination is saying that we are actually capable of coming together. It's even written in our founding articles in this country that we shall have that self-determination and that we are one nation under God. All it takes is to see God's honest truth around us, to see what your HappyHealer is showing, and it's God's creation. And for some of us, we can even see miracles. I have a whole community of people, and myself included. We see things that even lend further credence to our vision of love, faith, and the purpose of humankind to love and be happy. So therefore, given the gift and of will, in our very makeup, in addition to how determined we have been as a spirit for so long, even in our founding documents, folks, we better wake up and do what is right now while we still have time. And that is why your HappyHealer is running for president. Because we can come together as a collective and show through the system of love and the happiness of our people. And that it works is no question. It's a human condition, so much as that greed is, not only that it takes two major elements to trust in to provide for the needs for a life worth living. That is not a vote for happiness. And we can afford that for every man, woman, and child. That is happiness, and that we shall meet our challenges because of the love. And that's what we're working for. All of them. Racism, bigotry, it's almost out of the question to fix the human condition that is fixing me. That is, unless you address the human condition that is making the problem there. God provided a tool, and we have to trust in that tool. That is our great mission, that love, if we are to succeed. Through the consciousness of the people, we know that we must deal with racism, bigotry, and greed. The people are coming out against it. And those, that is God's truth. Our consciousness is talking through to us, and that's about as real as it ever gets. And our very lives depend on us addressing these very issues. Why is it that our allies count on this? That's because if we fail to get to it, what happens is that we all face a world that further declines. That is what God's truth has been telling us. And that this lifetime comes with so many directions. We see so much about humanity and the mistakes we made and the things and areas we could do better. We should have done better. And in my campaign, while the others serve to greed, we shall talk about the real actual problems we face in this life, and it's because we lack to come together in love and trust in God's truth and trust in God's love. Two things, truth and love. It's always two things in God's world, and that makes sense, and it's always truth and love. And God doesn't leave a whole lot to confusion. And that is perhaps why confusion causes so much depression and heartache and headache. And greed causes so much. The constant asking of if I must be this way. Greed is so ugly. And that is why I said if we're to do capitalism for supplying our needs, then we better remind capitalism and the government that it's exactly what it is there to do in the first place. And in the era of human intelligence transfer to machine intelligence, we are entitled to grow as human beings. That is the truth. That is what the natural world of God's truth and sciences is telling us. And every day we violate that truth and we pay a price more steep than the day before. That's also the truth. Given that greed is forcing us to stay in a trajectory that despite any sane or reasonable man's conclusion coinciding and careening directly into death's doorstep, it's like they're aiming the ship at the iceberg, folks. And it's like we know we're simply just straightening the chairs of the deck on the Titanic, and we do it anyway. Greed is killing you, and it's the insanity that we see. Now, folks, and we see that greed and hate is the devil. And love and truth is God. And that's the right way. It's a force that exists and is alive together with us, or in us, or part of us. So much is possible in God's world, but it all remains the same. This life, doesn't it? That's why we ultimately live in a just world, and that we better get to God's love to get to the real magic life has to offer. I can see it, and I can even promise it. It's so easy to see. So I would like to say it with you, me and you, saying that greed was such the culprit that you also speak out against it. It's important. And that you have, like the Happy Healer says, that you're ready to help humanity, that you even became the Happy Healer yourself, that you are a Happy Healer. I am your Happy Healer. And that you dedicate yourself to that. It feels like a fate that I've been living a life worth living, my friends, and that I believe I have purpose and value. And this is where that purpose and value has taken me. With all that arsenal of knowledge and perception and so much more, wouldn't you then also do your best to serve our people and bring about positive changes? Yes, you would. And for me, president is how God gave for me to speak, because I've got this knowledge and this ability to speak. So it just feels right on many levels. God made me gay, and I love God so much. And I feel I'm so perfect for my understanding in this role, and that I'm doing my best to maximize the good Happy Healer love can do in this. It's my fellow Americans, and each one of us can have purpose and value. And we've got a great team now, and we don't let anybody take that away from us, and don't you either. So now one must compare that option against your other candidates. And now you know that they're lacking the qualifications to serve in the wake of God's truth in this world, and that we're not using the tools that we have. And because of that, we lack humility and lack truth itself. So happiness and so much more. We're lacking this stuff. Let's change this stuff, I say, with a Happy Healer president. And let's beat Trump. But I also say let's be honest to the story and tell our stories. Our stories matter, and they help others. The jury is out on this, and We need not further make excuses for this. It's greed. Never forget that, okay? So always call it out. It's responsible for all the hell that's raised and all the injustice and racism, and yet we make excuses for it. And when someone does the true math for this in the upside down world we live in, then they know that truth. And why can I see so clearly? And it's just simply because I don't have hate, and I've purged myself of all triggers. I just have love, and that which comes with it is so much. And yet we only have the room or capacity for so much, don't we? And that love is not compatible with greed. It's very tough to do both without feeling like a fake. So I have gotten rid of hate and greed, which they are among his cousins go direct, which they cause so much bigger true justice, death, and destruction. It's love's nightmare scenario. It's our very reality. Tonight we have delved deeper and further on this story involving Neil Paulson as well, who has been trying to steal my home right out from under my nose, just as he had done from others. And this situation with Neil is a good example of what greed does. And it's funny I mentioned that we seen next to me at the convention, the dinner from the gala, we had Phil, which was the comptroller of this city, and Phil said that he knew Neil, and I just didn't really get into it much more with him because I said to myself, my story's still coming out, and I'm hoping that I hope that Neil would provide time, really, but he never did. So I'm just giving you a little update in this situation. And then what we're going to do is we're going to end it for this evening because we've stayed pretty steady here today. And we stayed true to our cause in the attempt to help people understand the complex nature of this truth. We have spent the effort in explaining it using metaphors and in multiple ways so that it could be understood backwards and forwards. I have that kind of understanding in many and multiple ways because I have for so long meditated on these truths. Allow these truths to work for all of us, your happy healer says. For the love of God, allow that. Because we all deserve a better life, and we all deserve a life worth living in this life. Be a go-getter. Help us this coming Saturday. Get involved in that process of helping get new voters to the Democratic Party. And even watch in the process as we take Republicans. We'll be the best at peeling Republicans, you watch. But they're coming with their happy healer. They're coming with a message. They're saying, Democrats, support your happy healer, is what they're saying. Because your happy healer is who holds the ideas we need. They agree. They agree with your income for all, with your... Think about this. The most progressive candidacy. A $5,000 monthly stipend and income for all so that we can live out a life worth living, so that we can all live towards a fate, give back to humanity, and do the tough work necessary in a new world of technological advancement and a robotic world. We're getting ready to experience super consumerism. But the thing about it is this world doesn't just come in automatically. It's not like something happens all like you've got to work for this, just like they did in Los Alamos for the nuclear bomb. This is human work we have to do. It's not the first stage of enlightenment. So it's important to go over this stuff. And it's important we have a president that understands it backwards and forwards and that can explain all through it and give us a calming tone. We need calm, and that's why we need a president who could understand that and will not sell themselves out by not selling myself out, I get to stay friends with everybody. I could be the peer mediator who stands tall and says, let's love, and that I'm not perfect, but that love is perfect. And I have experienced the hell that pain has to offer, and I know the experience of the American individual. And so I say, I stand tall in that truth. Allow me the honor, pleasure, and privilege, and I say, distinct honor, pleasure, and privilege. It is so wonderful to be standing before you as somebody so capable, really. I have the confidence needed for this job. I know my worth. In fact, because I get my worth, I often see people, and it doesn't matter what they do for a living, they're lacking so much understanding, and they need that to even be happy. So, there's all kinds of wealth in this life, and we have to be rich in multiple ways. And we have to get that super consumerism going and love's abundance going. And we need somebody who understands that very well and knows how to get all this machinery working in one conglomerate in unity. So that's what we're talking about. Unity is so important. We're wasting so much. It's so incredible how much we're wasting. And we need to have people taken care of. We owe it in this world to provide a reality. So I say, we are the most progressive candidacy. And I remind, and that is the fact that we are doing an income for all, $5,000 a month stipend for a family of 4. If you're a head of household, $2,500 for you, because we recognize it takes more to run your home and that you're entitled to your home. And people are entitled to a life worth living. And that if you're rich, you automatically have the ability to go after your fate. But that we were promised this, so it doesn't matter. If you have worked hard for so long, you realize that hard work is not just in vain anymore. That we're all getting a better life and that we're advancing. That's what people want ultimately. And so that's where we're headed. This is a campaign that looks forward in the truest ways and explains what that looks like and means. And then we can all feel better about it. Folks, that is the program for this evening. Tomorrow we will be coming back and we again have an explosive program. We have so much to share. In the meantime, I'm out there campaigning, working every day. This is a drive to the finish. Help us get involved this coming Saturday. Motivate yourself, please. Then motivate your friends. Listen to the previous videos. We have so many of them are so motivational, so informative. And get yourself into the idea of action. Change whatever you have to do. Get into your mojo. Join your Happy Healer this Saturday. We're starting at 9 a.m. There's not going to be, I'll have an announcement here before I get going. We'll maybe do something like that. That might be nice. And at the same point set everybody off. But the deal is, call us beforehand. Get involved. Get in contact. You've got my phone number, 407. You've got the number for the office. And our people too can call you back even. We have people. So 407-984-5075. And we need more people, and we need to continue to grow. This is the time, my fellow Americans, and we have to make a showing so that the news will pick us up. We have to do that now. Now's the time. So we have to step up and be heard. I need your help in that. We are moving, we are motivated, and we are right. Because it was so important for us to be correct so many times that now we're most often right. Okay, folks, God bless you. Good evening. Good night. Your Happy Healer loves you. This I know. For your Happy Healer told you so. We'll see you tomorrow night. God bless you.